Before we get started, just a few things. Thank you everybody for coming. It's great to see such a large turnout. I want everybody to know in this room that we are here to listen. One thing that I learned from last night is it seems that there's a perception that we've made decisions already. No decisions have been made, and we're here to listen. This is the opportunity to speak and be heard. So please engage in the process. We're looking forward to listening to what everybody has to say. Please be respectful. You know, that we have 18 presentations tonight. So we want to keep them moving. Everybody in this room has the same opportunity to speak, so please be respectful. Yes, we are going to have a break after Mr. Beckett, so everybody can go to the washroom if they need to. So he's number 9, so after Mr. Beckett, we're going to have a break. Just another thing too, just so everybody in the audience knows when the presentations are up on the board, we have a TV right here. So if you don't see us turning around looking at the screen, we can see it all right here, so everybody knows. Also, I want to let everybody know that our facilitator, Megan, is here tonight. And she wasn't able to make it last night, but it was videotaped. So she has every opportunity to see what happened last night as well. Trustees will be asking clarifying questions. We are not going to enter into a debate. It is going to be clarifying questions, so everybody's clear here with that. All right, with that, we're going to move forward. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it. Any objection to the approval of the agenda? Presentations, Ms. Warwick, you're up. You have 10 minutes, please. Also, just Lori, so you know, I'll give you we had a different timer there last night, but they're using it next door at the city council. So I'll give you a 1-minute warning when if you're ready. Okay, thank you.
Well, first I'd like to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to present tonight on behalf of the NDSS PAC. French immersion has been located at NDSS since 1988 when it was moved from John Garsby. At that time, ND was considered more central and easier for students to access because of bus routes. A new library was built to accommodate the large French immersion book collection. Over the years, parents and the district have worked hard to reduce the attrition rate at the secondary level, which tends to be high in French immersion programs. Location of the program has been reviewed in the past. After the 2008 review, when the plan was to close NDSS, it was decided to relocate the program to Wellington based on input from parents. The primary reason for choosing Wellington was the central location and access to bus service. The Ministry of Education states as part of its policy that once a French immersion program has been established, districts should develop policies that will serve to maintain and strengthen the program. In 2003, the district had only 191 French immersion secondary students attending ND. As part of the district-wide facilities plan that was developed at that time, it was recognized that continuing in the program to grade 12 was important, but enrollment was low. This made it difficult to offer courses. The plan established that relocating French immersion would require considerable discussion and consultation before any reconfiguration could take place. And it was decided to leave French immersion at ND. In 2015, due to successful efforts to retain students, we now have 348 French immersion and 40 Francophone students enrolled at NDSS. Having a larger enrollment creates more opportunities for students, in turn attracting more students to the program. So I have to remember. This chart shows the growth in French immersion from 2008 through to September 2015. With the exception of 2011, the program has been steadily growing at the secondary level. With increased spaces that have opened up at the elementary level, including late French immersion, the secondary program is expected to see even greater growth over the next few years. Why keep a French immersion at NDSS? The Ministry of Education has directed districts to promote French immersion and recruit students. The ministry recognizes the need to consult with parents. If enrollment is not sufficient, parents should be given 1 year's notice when any changes to the program are being considered. At our school district, the program is not in jeopardy, but there is a risk of dropping enrollment if it is relocated. Without sufficient enrollment numbers, courses become difficult to offer, in turn making it less attractive to potential students who may gravitate towards other opportunities. French immersion families need to have input into any decision-making that could place the program at risk. This chart shows the distribution of French immersion secondary students throughout the district. ND is a relatively central location and is part of a major transit hub. This is important given that most students come from central and north Nanaimo. With discussions underway to add grade 8 and 9 French immersion at Ladysmith Secondary, would it make sense to locate the other French immersion spaces further south as well? Relocating to John Garvey would add approximately 20 to 30 minutes each way for many families. In some cases, students already commute for an hour each way. For a sports academy, this wouldn't be the same issue as the district does not have any obligation to offer these programs. French immersion, on the other hand, has an educational component, and there is a high priority given to second language instruction at provincial and federal government levels. Making the program accessible to as many students as possible has been an important district goal. The program needs room to grow. A large and growing French immersion program may provide improved capital funding opportunities for a rebuilt high school that could accommodate all of the district programs. With enrollment now over 1,000 and expected to grow to 1,400, NPSS can offer more choice for all students. A large population is attractive to many students because it makes it possible to offer more academics and trades programs as well as a broad range of electives. As we can see from these participation rates, French immersion students are very active in extracurricular activities. This has led to great success for all students in MD, and the parents are very active as well. It will be a great challenge to keep the path going without the French immersion parents. French immersion students are well integrated into the school community. There's a very strong community connection and sense of pride. This takes years to build. Although other schools have been consolidated successfully, this is more difficult to accomplish when it's a dual track school. We have been told that not all dual track schools blend well, but the French immersion program has been successful at ND. Aside from location and ease of access, no one can really specifically identify all of the other reasons for the success. It may be largely due to the diversity of the student population and the accepting nature of the students. Whatever the reasons are, the program works. All district programs at NDSS are important. They all contribute to the unique and diverse fabric of the community. What are the risks if the program is relocated? Not all students will move with the program. There will be higher attrition rates due to transportation. Many families are sitting on the fence now due to logistics for getting their children to ND. It would be less accessible to many families. There will be significant costs to set up and staff the program at a new location. The library will need to accommodate and grow the French immersion book collection. It may take years to rebuild the program, and it may never achieve the success it is seen today. Relocation, when it is not supported by parents, is not aligned with the ministry goals. So what are some next steps? Well, we can wait and see how district enrollment numbers settle out. There are a lot of unknowns right now. Enrollment at John Morsby may not see a significant decline for a couple of years. As ND grows, many students in the catchment area who are in close proximity to John Barsby may opt to go there as out of catchment rather than to ND. And the reason for this is that John Barsby is a smaller school and it may work better for some students. Enrollment may adjust naturally between the two schools. And the district can consider other options for increasing enrollment at John Barsby, such as the sports academies or revisiting catchment boundaries. The French immersion and francophone programs need stability for continued growth and success. So thank you.
Thank you, Lily. We're good. Thank you very much. Sorry, bear with me. Ms. Thoreau, please. Thank you.
Good evening, trustees and fellow audience members. My name is Jennifer Terrio, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the parent community of Green Bay Elementary. I would like to thank the board for this opportunity to come speak to you, and also a little tongue-in-cheek, thanks for giving something to talk about other than our gym, because we talk about our gym a lot. But of course, we can't possibly come and present to the board without talking about our gym, so here we go, quickly. We still are an overcapacity school with an undersized gym. We sit at 158% capacity utilization this year, with 354 students enrolled. Our gym still has the same capacity as the previous times we've come, 312. Our gym remains inadequate and unsafe. Before proceeding with new building in the district, we asked the board to honor the commitments made to students at Nicholham Bay. The future planning, our PAC is currently looking to fundraise to make improvements to the playgrounds, which are also terribly inadequate for the size of our school, and we need to make decisions around locating those items. We would like to thank the board for the commitment of $25,000 to further study the site this year, and we are anticipating that follow through on this commitment. We also appreciate the inclusion of MMA in the 5-year capital plan and look forward to working with the district to see this to fruition. It is important to note here too that we aren't asking for anything special at MMA. We're actually asking for something that all kids in this district have access to, which is a full-size gymnasium. I would like to provide considerations regarding a potential move of the secondary French immersion program from NDSS. Obviously, you all have heard that transit is the main concern. So currently, we are the most northerly French immersion school in Hammond Bay in the district. We tend, although there's a water system, we tend to receive kids mostly from central to north parts of the district. So it's a pretty big concern. It is the major concern of parents at our school. The program is currently accessible, as you know, from all parts of the district via well-established city bus routes that are timely with minimal transfers, and still, even with that, many students are in transit to and from school for 1.5 to 2.5 hours a day. We are concerned that if the program moves to a place that is not as well accessed by public transit, there could be retention issues. And with that, that has the effect, potentially affecting staffing, and you are all aware that it is very difficult to attract qualified French immersion teachers. There's a concern that any attrition to the program might result in losing some of the fantastic teachers that we already have. Another point is the potential loss of funding should there be attrition from the program. I speak directly to federal funding, not the Ministry of Education funding. So obviously the students stay in our district, we still would get that funding, but the federal funding is on a per student registered in the program basis, and currently that money is in excess of $200,000 a year to help support the program. Another point that has come up is lost opportunities for French immersion students to participate in sports academies if those programs are not housed in the same location as French immersion program. Currently, with the Lacrosse Academy, some students are able to participate in the academy as well as continue on in the French registry. I just have a couple of suggestions here. People are looking for alternatives to traditional programming as evidenced by the success of the Eagle School and the growth of private schools. And school districts in this province in particular need to be proactive in attracting and retaining students. We have a suggestion that's come up many times to remove caps on the elementary enrollment at French immersion elementary schools and ensure the delivery of both of the program. There's a quote here from the Ministry of Education. Recruitment, integration, and retention of students are essential to meeting the overall objectives of the protocol. Given projections for further decline in the school-age population, the greatest challenge will be to sustain and hopefully increase the number of students in both French minority and French second language programs by 2017-18. And our district actually has been doing that. This program has been growing and we have been retaining students. We've been told that there is agreement and need to house the current programs as well as any influx of students from a potential closure of Woodlands. With the potential closure of Woodlands, we could see ND sitting closer to the 9% capacity utilization that the district has indicated as a goal for all secondary students, secondary schools to ultimately reach. We do understand the board needs to address potential underutilization capacity at Barsby, but we feel strongly that the underutilization has not been measured accurately as only projected data was used. This is in terms of the facilities plan. Recently, we received recent data that indicates the capacity utilization at John Barsby for the coming year will be in the 65 to 70% range. And while, of course, this is not anywhere near that ultimate goal, we do see that it is not as catastrophic as 46% that was originally projected. And with many changes at secondary level, as Lori mentioned, there will be some adjustment of enrollment throughout the district. And I was at a board meeting where Steve said, we don't know how many kids are going to be in these schools until we actually see them sitting there. So we would ask that you not make recommendations or decisions surrounding district programs at this point. It seems premature. If the real life data does show that there's a capacity issue at Barsby, perhaps the discussion needs to be one for future planning, not a reactionary approach to potential problem. Additionally, there can be a redistribution of district programming from closed schools to help alleviate the capacity and utilization. I'd like to quickly address some misconceptions about French immersion. French immersion is not an elite program. In fact, over the past couple of years, the district has acted to equalize access to the program by creating the lottery system for registration. We have students in every immersion school in this district, from all parts of the district and from all backgrounds. And just an aside, there is no fee to be a French immersion student. It is free and equally accessible to all students in this entire district. The one thing I can guarantee is that French immersion parents have a passion for their children's best interest in education. It sounds familiar because guess what? We're all in the same boat. All parents in this room that were here last night, that were here last year, that were here 5 years ago. Any cause that we feel might negatively impact our children causes us to be passionately opposed to that idea. We all get it. I'd also like to just quickly point out that the overwhelming majority of parents I've spoken with agree that this is not an issue of Barsby versus ND. It is an issue of the necessity of uprooting a well-established, successful program with adequate transportation options when there may be other solutions to the capacity issue. Is asking to keep the secondary program at a school that is in need of repair. We're not asking to be kept at some state-of-the-art amazing facility. Given the declining facilities, underutilization issues, and budget shortfalls, we understand the need to examine all possible scenarios to reduce those issues. The secondary French immersion program does not exist in the void. The students are fully integrated into every part of ND, from their English courses and electives to their participation on sports teams and other extracurricular activities. Questioning the merit and validity of the concerns of the French immersion community differently than any other group undermines the consultation process, and I ask you guys not to fall into that behavior as has been happening out in the public. If this is indeed an idea that is in the best interest of the students of this district, we ask that information be given with accuracy, transparency, and in a timely fashion. We ask that no decision be pushed through to meet an arbitrary deadline, and that parents and students be consulted in a positive and collaborative way. Our concerns are not meritless, nor are they requests for special treatment. We ask that our concerns be investigated with due diligence, and that the board not approve any recommendation that includes moving the secondary French immersion program from ND based on information you have received during this consultation period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Scholberg?
Thank you very much. Appreciate this opportunity for you to listen to us and for us to provide input. My name is Chris Scholberg, and I live at 525 Maple Street. My daughter graduated from the Woodlands Secondary School in 2014, and my son is currently in grade 8 at Woodlands. On behalf of the Woodlands Secondary PAC, I have been asked to make the following presentation. It is our hope that this presentation will clearly convey the perspective and depth of feeling that the community currently has with respect to the proposed Woodlands closure. Woodlands is a wonderful secondary school and is both an asset to the school district and an asset to the local community which surrounds it. As parents, we are very satisfied with the quality of education that our children receive. For us, the school is very much a social focal point in our community, helping to promote pride in the surrounding neighborhood and a sense of completeness in our community. We understand the funding dilemma faced by the school board and do not blame the board for the decisions it must make. In our opinion, the fiscal crisis that has been afflicting the district since 2002 is really a funding crisis and starts with our provincial government and its neoconservative fiscal policy. While the logic of deficit control is understandable, we do not feel that changes to the school district funding formula made in 2001 and the province's continuing fiscal restraint make a whole lot of sense when it results in the closure of valuable assets such as Woodlands. For us, the school is not a business. It is a public good whose overriding goal is to nurture and educate young people who will become productive citizens in our society. In our experience, Woodlands has and continues to achieve this goal. Closure of Woodlands will impact the community negatively, not only on an academic level, but also on a social and economic level. The only question is how deeply. In order to illustrate how deeply this closure will affect the community, we wanted to highlight a number of specific impacts Woodlands closure will have on the local neighborhoods surrounding the school. Number one, Woodlands Secondary is situated in the center of Nanaimo in the hospital area, a commercial and institutional node considered to have the highest residential density per block of neighborhood settlement in the city. Closing Woodlands would essentially concentrate district resources in north and south and secondary schools, leaving a huge geographic gap in central Nanaimo. In a community that has already absorbed the closure of Princess Anne Elementary and Dufferin Elementary, this would have devastating effects on educational access and social equity. Number two, closure of Woodlands will create an education desert by removing an essential community-based service from the local residential neighborhoods. Effectively, a large service gap over 6 kilometers wide as the crow flies will be created between NDSS and Wellington. In comparison, the current distance between the 5 existing secondary schools within the city of Nanaimo boundaries ranges between 1.55 and 3.72 kilometers. Generally speaking, these are fairly equitable and walkable separation distances. This equity and walkability will be thrown out of balance with the closure of Woodlands. Number three, the local community's cohesion and social fabric will be disrupted by Woodlands closure. A key community meeting space and social hub in central Canada will be lost. It's been found over the past 2 decades that a majority of school closures across North America tend to be concentrated in older urban neighborhoods. Studies in the United States have compared the impact of this trend to the urban renewal initiatives of the 1960s, which effectively eroded, in some cases destroyed, the social fabric of inner city neighborhoods. Number four, Woodlands closure will reduce local land values and demographic mix. By removing the local secondary school, and the community will be less attractive to those looking to buy a property or place of business in the area. To To illustrate this point, one study in 2008 by the National Association of Realtors noted that 27% of home buyers listed school quality and 21% listed proximity to schools as deciding factors in their home purchase. This will in turn also affect the local population diversity, reducing the neighborhood's vibrancy through lack of population renewal. Number 5, in general, the closure will run counter to the concept of a complete and sustainable community as encouraged in the City of Nanaimo's official community plan. Over time, concentration of growth will occur in the city's urban nodes and corridors. One of 5 key urban nodes is located around the hospital area and will encourage both institutional, commercial, and residential growth within the node, as well as growth in the residential areas around the node. This development policy will continue to heighten demand for school services in the central Nanaimo area. In addition to these 5 impacts, we also want to provide a number of specific observations relevant to Woodlands and the revised facilities renewal plan. Number 1, in 2006, plans for the renovation and expansion of Woodlands Secondary School were approved by the Ministry of Education with a commitment to release the approved capital funds pending the results of the district's facilities renewal plan. In upholding this recommendation put forward in the district's facility renewal plan, the Woodlands Division Committee of the time requested that the district recognize its earlier commitments to Woodlands and reallocate the $31.7 million originally committed for the expansion of Dover Bay Secondary and the expansion and renovation of Woodlands Secondary to rebuild a new secondary school at the Woodlands site that was intended to meet the educational needs of central Nanaimo. Unfortunately, this plan was changed with the election of a new school board, demonstrating that decisions affecting the renewal facilities plan over the years have not been immune from political intervention. Number 2, the decision to reopen Cedar Secondary has altered the facilities renewal plan and has significantly impacted the plan's equity. For example, the motion on this piece of the district-wide facility plan did not appear to consider an analysis of the financial impacts of reopening Cedar Secondary School, and in particular the immediate impacts on both Smith Secondary and John Barsby with respect to the course selection and variety, decrease in extracurricular activities, and loss of efficiencies, as well as costs related to reconverting Cedar Secondary from its proposed use as an elementary school back into a secondary school. Number 3, the community and educational values presented to keep Cedar Secondary open are equally applicable to Woodlands Secondary. Given the board's decision to reopen the Cedar Secondary, we would assume a similar level of board support for keeping Woodlands open at this time. We are a small school with a strong sense of community, and in fact have students transfer from larger high schools to our school specifically for this community feeling. All of our students and staff know and support each other and make a point of connecting on a regular basis through a variety of methods and programs. Number 4, as an alternative to creating one mega school, the district could consider repairs and additions to several schools, bringing each school population to 1,100 students, which is well within the optimum school size limit. Instead of spending up to $50 million or so on one facility, this would ensure the equitable spread of funds, program, and services throughout the district. And number 5, finally, it's worth noting that as part of the previous facilities renewal plan, the board passed a motion on 2013, June 26, to postpone relocation of Woodlands students until a new facility was built at the MDSS site. Based on these impacts and observations, we would request that Woodlands not be closed and continue to operate as the community and educational asset that it is. Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much. Ms. Mullins?
Hello, my name is Jennifer Mullins. I'm with the Canadian Parents for French. It's a group of voluntary organization that started in the 1970s to promote French language education in schools. And it's a group that's been really instrumental in having French immersion across the country, and French language education for French in the schools. So I'm very happy to be able to speak to you today. So our vision for French immersion is as a well-managed program for learning excellence, and one that is that demonstrates equality and fairness. So by well-managed, what we mean is a program that minimizes disruptions and maintains stability. These comments are largely in the context of the proposed move that you're considering right now, of moving the secondary program from NDSS to John Varsity. But a well-managed program is a stable program, one that minimizes disruptions, a program that is committed to growth. There is a lot of capacity for growth in the French immersion program compared to other jurisdictions like Victoria, where 20% of all enrollments are in French immersion, and in Nanaimo it's 10. So you can see that there is quite a bit of capacity for growth within the system here in Nanaimo. And another way of thinking about a well-managed program is thinking about efficiency. And we consider French immersion as being the core curriculum that is delivered in the English program plus French. So it's a very efficient program for students, and it's also an efficient program for administration. You have teachers, if you teach in English or in French, they need class space. It's really the same cost, but a much improved outcome. So in that light, that's what I mean by efficiency. It also, French immersion also does attract resources. I have this estimate here of $230,000 per year from out-of-district students. With the discussions of moving the French immersion program from ND to another school, there have been some families that have been considering perhaps moving their children to Bolinas High School, for example, in Parksville, since such a large number of students actually commute into within the district from the north end of the area. So Bolinas is highly rated by the Fraser Institute, similar to ND, and that would be an equivalency in some people's minds. In fact, it could be in fact easier for some to go in that direction. Out of district, I also mean private school. There are some who are considering putting their children into private school should the program be relocated. And then third, the late French immersion in particular has been attracting students out of homeschooling into the district. It's not clear to me that they would consider staying with the program should the program move to John Varsity, simply because some of those homeschool kids are from Gabriel Island and they have an existing transit right now to NB, and it's not clear if that would be extended to John Varsity. I would encourage that it would be if this ends up happening, but that is a concern for some students. Also, there is special grant money that is available only to French language education, and that's something we get. I would also think of well-managed in terms of the consultation. So one of the best practices in BC is to have a French advisory committee. If this committee is in place, I'd be happy to participate in it. If it's not in place, let's talk about making it come into place. So learning excellence, I think I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just for your information to be aware that French immersion has very high outcomes. Learning a language itself is a way of solving the problem of language. Understanding the same concepts in both languages is a brain improving function, and these children are much better equipped with problem solving techniques that will help them in their whole lives. And under learning excellence, so I did include this point about French immersion being distinct from other programs. It's our view that French immersion really is an education stream. It's something that is available to everyone. It's something that's accessible to everyone. It's not really a district program in the sense of when I'm looking through your district programs, and maybe it's just a misunderstanding on my part, but I'm seeing like programs or merit-based programs in art and sport. French immersion is just fundamentally different from that. It's an education stream that really is equal to English. Well, another part of a well-managed program is accessibility. And I'm thinking about this in like the equality and fairness perspective. So when we see that enrollment is still being limited in French immersion by lottery, by lineups, by whatever method you choose, children are still being left behind, children are still being left out. That just can be resolved by having unlimited enrollment, and that's something that we would encourage. Enrollment in French immersion, and like an indication to an interest in French immersion should mean a seat in French immersion. We need to educate our children, whether it's in the English stream or the French stream. Let's just make it happen so that it can be flexible and we can accommodate everyone. Another aspect of accessibility would be maintaining the enrollment that we have. I'm estimating that we're losing about $100,000 in the federal cap every year just by not maintaining the enrollment from kindergarten to grade 12 or from late immersion to grade 12. So let's put something in place like they do in Campbell River, where there's a team that assesses all the exits and makes sure that those kids are supported. But accessibility also has a large part to do with income. Not everyone has the capacity to drive their children to a French immersion school. There's only 4 French immersion elementary schools that are bursting at the seams. So let's add to that and make more French immersion places walkable. But let's also maintain the big high school that we have with the transit hub. That's a really key part to making it work now. So really in closing, I wanted to just sort of apply these to the NDSS new. What would that mean? So the way we're seeing it is that French immersion has been investing in this location since 1988. It's a long-term program in this one location. There's benefits to having it stay there. It's a place that would have capacity for the program to grow. One idea that has been floated, certainly would require more discussion, but is having NDSS being perhaps a programs-only school. So maybe not having that catchment apply to NDSS at all. Maybe catchment applies to Woodland and John Barsby, and that leaves ND to be a program school, a district program school under your definition. Maintain the English students who are there today. Other students could take up space on an application basis. This would allow the school to continue accommodating the French immersion program. Another point about French immersion that I'd like to make with you is that the French immersion requirements in high school, grades 10, 11, 12, is only 6 courses out of the 24. It's very important for our students to have access to other programming, and they are very engaged in other programming. And that programming already exists at ND, which makes it even more compelling to stay in the location that it's in. And if you brought additional programming to that school, it would make it even more attractive. You've heard the issue of the bus access. I don't need to repeat that. But I really appreciate having your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for your presentation. One thing in the notes did puzzle me, and it's under learning excellence. It's third bullet down. It says skills for knowledge-based economy and wicked problems. I wonder if you could tell me what wicked problems are.
Oh, what are wicked problems?
Wicked problems.
Oh, wicked problems. This is a way of describing very complex problems that are emerging in our society. Problems like climate change, where you have multiple inputs from many sources, and then the solutions aren't singular either. And this is, in my mind, very similar to learning another language. Like, you're learning about the same concept, you're translating it into 2 languages. It relates ideas from one to the other. Our children who learn French immersion learn those same problem-solving techniques that end up being very helpful in computer science, in engineering, and all the science and problem-solving based studies.
So it's essentially transferability.
Yeah, a basic problem-solving technique that you can apply to anything.
That makes sense. Thank you very much.
Trustee Higginson. Hello, we have another question for you.
thank you for your presentation. It's great, and for the time you took to come here tonight. You mentioned a team in Campbell River that assesses students. Can you tell me more about that? It was a brief mention, but it sounds like something that's interesting.
Well, in order to maintain enrollment in French immersion, there's really only two entrance places, right? In the early French immersion in kindergarten or grade 1, or in grade 6 in the late immersion. So in Campbell River, what they're doing is when teachers or schools or parents or the student are suggesting that they're not sure if they're a fit in the program and they maybe should get out, that they have the ability then to actually, the ability to meet with the team if you're a student or if you're a family, but required to meet with the team if you're the administration, the teacher, to make sure that the student is supported in all the ways possible. But the resources that are available to English students are also available to French students, because all students will succeed in French immersion if the supports are available.
Ms. Warner?
Hello. So my name is Erin Warner, and I have 2 kids at Weatherford. Your proposal has me going to Endure, which is a short walking distance, but is currently over capacity. I graduated from VIU in 2002, and I'm so excited to be doing my presentation in front of one of my university professors tonight. I have been on the audit team for many government organizations in Nanaimo, including the city, library, and yours truly, School District 68. I now have my own accounting practice and am a financial analyst at Island Health. So one of the questions that came up last night was on population. I graduated high school in 1998, and my generation has taken to higher education, travel, and life experience before settling into family life. And I absolutely knew that the statistics would support my belief that that trend caused a decline in birth rates, which are now just starting to hit the high school, or hit the schools. So 34% of mothers had their children when they were between the ages of 30 and 34. And the women population for Nanaimo of this age group has grown 27% since 2006. And it is expected to grow by another 29% by 2024. The children aged 0 to 3 in Nanaimo has grown 11% since 2006, and it's expected to grow another 17% by 2024. These kids are just entering the school system, and you will decide whether it's private or public school. And just to show you what elementary level will look like in School District 68 with the closure of 2 elementary schools, I've done up a graph. It's not part of my presentation, but you can still have a look at it. And I'm just going to get into my presentation, because that wasn't part of it. So as an accountant, I'll be the first to tell you that you can't spend money that we do not have. But this does not appear to be the issue. I have provided a graph that shows several years where we have budgeted operating deficits. The red line is the break-even point. The green is what we have budgeted, and that's below the line. And the blue line is at the top is where we actually ended up. The school district has a history of budgeting for operating deficits. However, we have only had 1 operating deficit in the last 9 years, despite budgeting for a deficit almost every year. The greatest difference was in 2014 when we did $5.7 million better than budget. You may be wondering why I only went back 9 years. Well, I got to 2010, and since we were pretty close to budget back then, I got curious about the years before. So anyway, since 2007, we have budgeted for a total of $7 million in operating deficits, but we have had a total surpluses of $13 million. We have made it through the tough years of declining enrollment, and now is the time to use these surpluses to balance the operating budget if actually needed. Trustees have been asked to eliminate a structural deficit that is budgeted to begin next year. Well, we have just seen that we have budgeted a deficit every year. So looking back, have we not always been faced with a structural deficit? Secondly, if you are going to make decisions based on the budget, we need to be sure that the budget amounts are reasonable. With so many proposals on the table, budgeting in this environment is next to impossible. For this year's budget, there are a few figures that are not comparable to actual amounts experienced in recent years. For example, we have budgeted for almost $1 million less for tuition revenue this year. This is a 21% drop from last year. So I ask, are international enrollments down, and are we expecting enrollments to remain at this level? I do not know. Investment income is budgeted for half of what we earned last year. Is it likely our investment income will be $200,000 less than last year? The budget for transportation and housing expense is comparable to prior years, but if we are expecting to reduce busing and considering a decline in international students, why would housing and transportation costs not also decline? And while overall enrollment has declined 5% in the last 3 years, district administration costs increased 11%. Most districts with comparable enrollment FTEs spent much less on district administration. And while the budget has us spending less on administration this year, this directive has come from the ministry, as they have requested these cuts for all districts. We must find ways that the board office can operate more efficiently as opposed to making cuts in schools and classrooms. We need to inquire how other districts are operating so we can improve administration inefficiencies. One of the other items was dues and fees. They were also quite a bit higher than other districts, and you may want to have a look at that. I'm not sure what we're doing in that level. So getting on to the structural deficit, it is just under 2.5% of your operating expenses. Part of the deficit is due to $500,000 loss of funding protection. Due to the preliminary enrollments, it appears we may not even get this year. However, we have seen an increase in student FTEs, so enrollment grants will increase, and any efficiencies in the classrooms should continue to improve. Enrollment changes can significantly affect the grants and their associated expenses. Per pupil funding is currently $7,200 per student, and at 24 students in an elementary class, that's $172,000 in additional funding to pay the cost to operate one additional classroom. I do not know what the expenses will be. The district needs to update the financial information for preliminary enrollments and other known amounts to facilitate decision making. So since the savings of school closures were originally presented September 2nd, the savings proposed have increased due to adding in utility and maintenance savings, and it appears Rutherford Elementary may not need to be closed to eliminate the deficit. Many questions still remain on the savings of closing Rutherford, and my buddy Matt will be discussing this shortly. But the proposed annual savings from closing Rutherford represent 0.5% of your operating expenses. Are the disruptions and instability of closing this school worth saving only 0.5%? I recommend the school district revisit the rebuild of Rutherford as recommended in Doug Player's unbiased report. This idea from 2 years ago is not outdated. If rebuilt, utility and maintenance costs would improve, and the $2 million for Rutherford's future capital costs would be eliminated. We would also have enough capacity to accommodate the expected increase in elementary enrollment in the area. It's time to redraw current catchment lines in order to reduce overcapacity at McGurr and Frank Nag and enhance student learning at all schools in the area. So in addition to my presentation, I've also written a book on things you'll need to explore for the Rutherford proposal, and you all get a copy. After tonight, I'll be focusing on ideas that will cut expenses and increase revenues for the district, and I look forward to looking at you guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just have a brief question. So in regards to administration, increases in regards to budget surplus, I just wanted to thank you for your presentation and see if you noticed the elephant in the room. And thanks for mentioning the elephant in the room.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Brunswick.
Now, you didn't actually read this part of your presentation, but it's in here, so I'm going to make sure you can. On the way you talk about trustee Simmons asked to eliminate the structural deficit that's been budgeted to be next to that paragraph there. At the end there, you say, I argue that budgeting for the worst case in the government organization is political for supporting funding demands. Can you clarify what you mean by that? I think I know, but I want to hear.
I didn't want to bring it up.
I think it's important.
So I didn't know if it was problematic to discuss until.
I think it is.
Okay. So if you're looking to go for support to increase your funding, request more funding from government, from the ministry basically, you will show a deficit.
Right.
And if you show that we are rich, we have so much money, they're not going to increase their funding.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Bradley.
Good evening. My name is Tom Scrouter. I'm a student at NDSS in the French immersion program, and I'm the captain of the NDSS cross-country team. I'm here with members of my cross-country team and the manager of our team, my mom, Kathy Grabber. We'd like to explain to you what NDSS is to us.
Thank you, everyone. At the end of this presentation, because I want to make sure that I get through it, I wanted an opportunity for the students to introduce themselves. This is a big thing. Most of them are quite shy, and this is, I'm quite proud of them to take time out of their evening and come here and represent their team. NDSS, what it is to us. It's academics, it's teams, it's clubs, friends, school spirit. The NDSS cross-country team, it's a place where everyone is included. There's no tryouts. Everybody that comes out is included on our team. Our team is composed of over 50% French immersion and Francophone students. A number of those students are our team leaders. We have students from grade 8 to 12, both boys and girls. We have students from all socioeconomic backgrounds. Through community support, we fund our athletes who cannot afford the shoes and spikes to participate, and NDSS supports students who cannot afford the athletic fees. I want to talk about our program growth. When my son Thomas started at DSS, we had approximately 8 students. I didn't even know who we were cheering for as the students went by because they didn't even have jerseys. We now have 32 students in our program. In just 3 years, we've grown it. Now our entire team has jerseys. They fundraised for tracksuits. We have a team canopy, an emergency bag, and we have 2 national level coaches, a husband and wife team, Kim and Randy Longmire.
We've taught these students to not only participate as a team, but to give back to our community. Every year, they organize, they lead, they sweep, they take down a course for the large school North End zone needs. It's been so successful at our program. Can we go back to year one? I'm trying to show this all in pictures. In year one, here they are when they just got their jerseys and their new sign. Previously, they'd stand at meets in this cold and wet weather, huddled together. Year two, we were able to get a canopy, and you can see our team was growing. Here they are, volunteering at their zone meets. They are so successful at volunteering at these meets that this year we organized 2 meets. We did the South End large schools and the North End. These kids helped over 1,000 students run on that day and find success. They're supporting kids that maybe would be inactive, that have learning difficulties, and they're there cheering alongside them. What would be the effects of moving the French immersion program? It's much more than just the French immersion and francophone programs. You potentially break up a team like this when they decide as families and students to choose different options. We go back to where we were 3 years ago, low numbers, an inability to compete at divisions as a team. Low numbers could end up us losing our coaches. It's pretty hard to go back and start again. This season is the culmination of 3 years of hard work, dedication, and team building. These kids have been taught to support each other, and they have improved school spirit. Here they are doing their high fives. This happens at every practice, every race. They support each other not even just in practices and at races, but they're supporting each other in academics. Their routine is to meet in the cafeteria, help each other with academics. Some of the students that are having challenges, the older students are offering peer tutoring. Most of those are French immersion and francophone students. Together, we're building confidence in these kids. And we're achieving success for all. These are 23 students this year that went to Islands. Every single one of them has qualified for provincials. These students will compete this Saturday at Jericho Park. We represented and qualified in each of the divisions, junior boys, junior girls, senior boys, senior girls. That is unheard of. Here's a picture of our NDSS girls at the start line. Our NDSS boys, you can see, they take up most of the lineup. This is what we've accomplished in 3 years. Imagine what we can do in 3 more years if we stay together at NDSS. We have only just begun. So I'd like just an opportunity for each of these kids to introduce themselves.
I'm Rory Baumann, I'm in the English program.
I'm Emma Rainbow, and I'm in the French immersion program.
I'm Yosef, and I'm in the Learn at Home and English program. I'm Jacob Bassett, and I'm from the English program.
I'm Owen Branstetter, and I'm in the English program.
My name is Ian Robert, and I'm in the French immersion program.
My name is Marina Anderson, and I'm in the French immersion program. My name is Ruben Schuler, and I'm in the French immersion program.
I want to give you one example as well. Owen, he's holding a special trophy that sits beside his bed. Owen, when he started, he was at the back of the pack. He wasn't sure about going to races, a little unsure about coming to practices, but this is such an inclusive team. I said to Owen, you want to learn how to win your category? I'm going to teach you how to win your category. The next race, coaches are looking for Owen. Owen comes across the finish, big smiles. Coaches said, how to go on? I won my category. You won your category? Oh my gosh. He goes, my category is so special, they're shipping my trophy to me. At our wrap-up, this was the trophy that was delivered. These teammates built this trophy for Owen to make him feel included and special and to realize that he can reach his full potential and have personal goals. Owen is now our most consistent on every lap. His grandpa comes to his races and he times them, and he's the most consistent kid and one of the best kids on our team for school spirit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, you guys, and good luck this week at the World Cup. Thank you. Congratulations on your success and good luck.
I'd like just to ask that we be excused. They have to go home and pack. They leave tomorrow.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Good luck. Ms. Seymour? Mr. Seymour.
I was on the Vandermass at the last one, so take it on the chin too. My name is Jesse Seymour, and I'm speaking about Rutherford tonight. I have two daughters that go to Rutherford Elementary, Jameson, Aspen, kindergarten, and grade 1. So, good evening, trustees and staff. Thank you for allowing my voice to be heard tonight. I listened to the people, my unique gift for the community last night. I was moved by the stories that make our Rutherford community distinct. I also had the opportunity to listen to your questions and statements after each speaker. It is apparent that not one person in this room is happy about the state of our current public school system and the choice that lies ahead. It saddens me that only 2 years of public education that my young family has known in this school district has been with strife and worry. Yes, Rutherford Elementary has its issues. It has an aging facility, but that aging facility encompasses passionate children and parents, along with great staff members. Through this process, we have been asked, what makes your school unique? Very simply, it is the people of our close neighborhood community. We've all heard that a house does not make a home. I dare you to find a true statement when it comes to our school. If new meant better, then why is Hammond Bay so sought after? It surely isn't the building or the 6 portables that sit on its property. It is the faculty, students, and their community. How many staff members and trustees live in a brand new home? I don't. I live in a house that needs work. What is and was more important to my family or what is surrounding us? Yes, it's true that our school needs work. We're worth the work. We're worth the long-term investment. Not only that, but staff have actually taken it one step further and given you a plan that suggests a $5.5 million estimated cost for an expansion of the school within our zone is the best step forward. It is not, and we don't want it. Mr. Sullivan, you spoke last night, and you asked the speaker, do you consider Dover Bay part of your community? And they answered yes. Let's clarify this a bit. A child's most formative years are the first 6 years of life and their first years in education. So yes, Dover Bay is part of our community, and most parents feel very comfortable with that statement. We're also very cognizant of the fact that before children can be left to their own devices and asked to make safe choices on their way to a secondary school, they've been groomed by a caring, reasonably sized elementary school. Along the way, in such an environment, the students have helped them, teachers encourage them, and their very own neighborhood community members watch out for them. This all happens because they are very well known to one another and go to school where they live. We don't live in Frank Bay. I had the chance to speak with Mr. Kindler regarding the business case and closure law of Frank Bay during a past public meeting, and during this conversation we shared similar views on community. When it comes to the dollars and cents of a closure, it's very tough to quantify. This is especially very hard given the time restraint and a plan that is within its infancy. It must be clear that School District 68 is prepared to spend a great deal of estimated money on something that they may be forcing to inhabitants do not want. The conversation about a rebuild has not even been tabled. There's not even the simplest list of pros and cons or a list of probable costs associated with the new school on the Rutherford site. We don't want a new school, but if staff and trustees believe that this facility is past its prime, then why not build here where the public, your clients, want the school built? Ms. Higginson, it's unfortunate that given the nature of being time barred and being under the gun in a consultation process has facilitated a large degree of animosity between trustees, staff, and public. Wouldn't it be grand if we were able to look at a facilities plan without this pressure? Would decisions be more prudent? I think so. You kept on asking for ideas from presenters or options. Take our school out of the consultation process, engage our unique neighborhood community, and the possibilities are endless. If closing schools in this district were the answer to our problems, then why are we reopening Cedar shortly after its closing? Reopening one and closing another school has not proven advantageous, but here we are. If the facilities plan at the time of closing Cedar was more in-depth and had a longer vision, will we be spending $1 million to convert it? It seems that short-term decision-making has plagued this district, and I say enough is enough. Ms. Ray, we spoke about getting community members rallying behind us, and the major developer here in Nanaimo spoke last night, told everyone how much he is developing and will continue to develop. Our realtor in our open and private group has taken you out so that you can see the development that is occurring all around us. What more do you want? What more do you need? The need for our school can't be clearer. Mr. Blaine, we all know that international students add substantially more cash to our district. Why are we not monopolizing on this by extending our catchment and allowing for international growth within the North Zone schools, and at the same time relieving stress off of the overpass that occurred? Ms. Paul, last night, he asked the speaker, how can we improve the communication and process? Allow Rutherford to keep its door open. Let us form a committee as suggested by one of our speakers last night, and within ministry guidelines, and let's work on it together. Conclusion is a topic that you'd be able to Conclusion is a topic that you'd be able to lend a great deal of insight into based on your background. I would say that being involved earlier in the process, having a long-term solid understanding and representation from all zones equally could accomplish just this very topic. On October 8th, at Rutherford, I asked a question regarding construction costs. This one in particular still remains unanswered as far as I'm concerned. And I asked who has estimated the construction cost of $5.5 million, and based upon precedent, how accurate have they been with their estimating? And the response is still on the page. The district contracted James Bush and Associates professional quantity surveyors to determine the construction cost for Frank May 50K edition, background info, expertise, past clients, and contact information can be found. So at this time, I'd just like to give Director of Planning and Operations the opportunity to answer that question here fully tonight. And that's you, Mr. Siegel. So the question is,
Excuse me, sir. This isn't a question and answer. It's an opportunity for you to make a presentation. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll just ask it. You don't have to answer that. How accurate have the estimates from James Bush and Associates been in the past on projects and within our school district in particular? And before the trustees vote on Rutherford's fate, can you please provide documentation to support your answers from tonight? I was hoping you could answer, but unfortunately that's not the case. So, rebuild versus expansion. Of the 7 engineering firms that I found in Appendix A from the fiscal year ending June 2014, the financial statement totaling nearly $1.8 million, I don't see one mention of JVA. It would seem that School District 68 has not even used them during the 2013-2014 fiscal years. This also tells me that you did not ask them to supply costs on rebuilding Rutherford. Another question for Mr. Sabo. Did School District 68 request a cost analysis from JVA Quality Surveyor on rebuilding Rutherford Elementary? It is, of course, evident that School District 68 staff and superintendent have their eyes fixated upon an expansion and closure, and that is why there has not been a workup or a discussion supporting Rutherford rebuild. Here's another thought-provoking question and answer found on the FAQ page. Has the size of parking lot at Frank Day been addressed? Will it be increased to accommodate the extra number of cars that will be arriving? Answer. As per board policy, in the event the school is closed, there will be numerous school community meetings to discuss items such as learning plan, traffic studies, and playground equipment. This can be discussed at a future board meeting. Why would it be board policy to discuss ramifications for after school closure, such as increasing the size of parking lots? How can a proper estimate have been achieved through James Bush Associates? And exactly how does a quantity surveyor provide an estimate on part of a project that is yet to be submitted to them? When we talk about a parking lot expansion, we talk about the following costs. Do we have the footprint to accommodate the parking expansion? What is the impact on the ground where it will go? Do you have to blast rock for a parking lot expansion? Are there sufficient electrical systems in place to accommodate street or car park lighting? Or do you have to cut pavement, core holes, and add additional conduits to facilitate this expansion? If this were the case, you'd be looking at additional costs of cutting the blacktop, accessing the electrical room, and vault. What are the costs of the fixtures? What are the costs of the soil compaction? What's the blacktop cost? Planning, procurement, tendering, approval have not been accounted for in the submittal to GVA or to this board of trustees. You know, it's interesting, you can stand at the building site of a future Rutherford Elementary and see possibilities. 2 beautiful fields, blacktop for hockey, fantastic playground, old growth cedars. I'm just about done. This site is open and safe. A person can see exactly what Dr. Claire was talking about. It surely does not take a geophysicist or a well-seasoned professional tradesperson. You stand at Frank J. Ney current school site and you struggle to see the benefits besides the fact that the facility is newer. It has no field on its property, no blacktop for hockey. It has a nice playground, but has no trees. Actually, it does have trees that run up and down Holy Creek on the city animals property. They create a cool sound-bearing stream that can't be touched due to a covenant and setback. They also create a division between the school property and rented field, which creates a safety hazard, especially when talking about doubling the school size. What truly makes the site at Rutherford unique is that no land space issues, the ability to accommodate almost any type of footprint or a repurposed or new school. Dr. Claire spoke on a rebuild of Rutherford in 2017, and I quote, "Rutherford is an outstanding school site, but the school has been created through a series of additions. There is room on this site to rebuild while the current building remains in operation." Where is this cost estimate? Where is this discussion? Keep large expenditures off the dockets at Rutherford for the next few years. Get proper estimates. Increase international population and the public excited about public education by building a new Rutherford with the monies not being spent at Frank Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Beckett.
Hi everyone. My apologies I didn't get this on time, so there's nothing going to be up on the big screen. You have old school tape breaking for these guys to follow along. And this will be up on the Open Friday website later for anyone else who's interested. My name is Matt Beckett. I'm a Nanaimo resident, taxpayer, father of 2 children at Rutherford Elementary School. And today I want to talk to you about budgeting, specifically about the budget outline presented to us as justification for the closure of Rutherford School. The thing about budgets is they need to be accurate. The more accurate the budget is, the more confident we can be when we make decisions based on it. The budgeted projections presented to us for the closure of Rutherford have some issues that I would like to point out. First of all, in the summary of savings, on page 21, there's an addition error. simply by adding the operating savings to the future capital expenses. If you do it correctly, you will realize that the savings have been overstated by $45,000. That's about 10% of the first year's savings, and that's evident in figure 1 in the sheet there. Secondly, the largest component of the budgeted savings comes from the elimination of teaching positions. 3.8 full-time equivalent positions are expected to be eliminated by closing Rutherford. It's not clear how 3.8 came to be or what that would do for class sizes. However, from that, it's claimed that we will save just over $390,000 per year by eliminating 3.8 teachers. So this works out to $103,000 per teacher in savings. And so I'm asking, is this realistic? My accounting consultant has informed me that 26% is an appropriate number to take into consideration benefits and associated employment costs. So working backwards from $103,000, taking this into consideration, it brings us to a salary of $84,000 that we are expecting to eliminate per teaching position. If you look at figure 3, this is from the Nanaimo District Teachers Association. This is the salary grid. It shows us that the teacher salary range starts at $44,500 and it caps out at $84,000. Teaching is a unionized profession, so I think it would be highly unlikely that we would be saving based on the highest salary range. There's no way we would be cutting our most experienced and the highest seniority teachers. If you do the same calculations using the low end of the pay scale, the resultant savings end up being only $213,000 per year. My math is on there for you to check, which works out to a difference of $180,000 per year. That's $180,000 less in savings than is being projected. That's on the low end. You've already calculated the high end. The mean, which is probably what I would go on, or actually the median, I should say, would reduce the savings by $89,000 per year. So are the assumptions made in this projection accurate? I don't think they are. Moving on to other things. The maintenance savings for Rutherford is the next item used to determine ongoing savings. It's based on prior year expenses. Some of the items listed in the report include electrical upgrades, a left-hand turn lane, paving, and specialty renovations. These are one-time costs. Now, these aren't ongoing expenditures, and as such, they can't be considered as ongoing savings. Savings need to be based exclusively on future costs. The proposed plan rests on the ability to move students to other schools, with the addition of Frank May for an additional capacity of 200. As the building size and occupancy increases, so too will the utility and maintenance costs. The district stated that this is difficult to calculate. However, I would say it's better to calculate and budget for something than to just ignore it. Extrapolating existing utilities and maintenance based on the student number or square footage of Frank May seems like a reasonable approach, and I've done this for you. If you look at figure 4, we have a cost per square meter to run Frank May in its current capacity, and I have estimated out, or extrapolated out, the cost of ongoing maintenance with the addition, and that works out to an additional $30,000 to $50,000 a year, depending on how you work those numbers. Presumably, McGurr and Randerson Ridge will also have an increase in expenditures due to their increased capacity as well as the potential need for portables. Also, with the closure of Rutherford, there will be a cost associated with moving the life skills program, renovating their new location, the administrative cost of closing everything, as well as the physical cost of relocating assets. All of these are expenses that offset potential savings, but they appear to be unaccounted for in any of the literature we've been given. Finally, this whole plan is predicated on the assumed investment of $5.5 million into the expansion of Frank May. When I see an investment, I want to see a return on that investment. But the budget is stated is to be believed, and I believe I have shown that it probably can be. But if it is, then closing Rutherford would save about $500,000 per year. Taking into account the $2 million future expenditures, this brings our break-even point to 6.5 years in the future. So $5.5 million would get us 6.5 years to the break-even point. 6.5 years from now, we're going to be exceeding that capacity again. What are we going to do? That doesn't seem like a return on investment to me. We're spending $5.5 million to reduce capacity and run into this problem in just a few years. In conclusion, the budgetary outline presented for the closure of Rutherford School is based on some extremely best-case scenario numbers, combined with the omission of some foreseeable costs. I respectfully ask that the trustees confirm the ministry funding is in place before any more time or money is spent on this, and look at the numbers involved in this plan critically. Pressure the district for sources and reliable data, and make sure that the decisions you are making is based on accurate information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a 5 or 10 minute break so everybody can use the washroom. Thank you.
Okay.